Aber Instruments makes measuring equipment for the brewing and biotechnology markets. What we actually manufacture is something which helps people understand what's going on inside their fermentation process. We design and manufacture this equipment and export it all around the world. My name's Barry Wise. I'm the Managing Director of Aber Instruments. We're a small company in Aberystwyth. We started in 1988 and started with just a few people, 4 founders started the company, and we're now up to 27 staff. In around the year 2000, we had instigated some wider share ownership. We decided that it would be good for people other than the initial founders to own some part of the company. It wasn't at that time, it wasn't part of any succession planning, but a few years later we were talking about succession, what would happen when the founders eventually retired, and where the whole company was going, really. It was part of our strategic planning, part of our thinking for the future. But we wanted more than that. We wanted the company to continue very well, to prosper, to be owned, in fact, by the people who were running it, and to go forward in a stable way with ownership and engagement of the staff. The company was started, as I said, with 4 founders, and they initially had an equal share for 4 quarters of the ownership of the company. As time's gone on, one of those people has left, and we've also introduced a wider share ownership across the company, and the Employee Benefit Trust forms part of that, and now there's almost everybody in the company is an owner, in fact, and the percentage of the ownership has changed now, so that the initial 4 founders that owned 100% now only own 25% of the company, and the Employee Benefit Trust and the individuals in the company own the remaining 75%. We met up with the Wales Cooperative Centre, running business seminars explaining to businesses such as ourselves what the advantages were of employee ownership, and talking about employee benefit trusts and how they work. That fitted in very well with our thoughts and our plans, and we decided to investigate that further, but to look at some of the options as well, which were related to the way the company could go. So we did look at other more traditional routes of succession, such as partnering, joint venturing, and indeed a trade sale. Eventually those things were all rejected for various reasons, but mainly because we were very, very keen to keep the ownership and independence of the company. So the Wales Cooperative Centre helped us with advice and also helped with setting up the Employee Benefit Trust in the first place. And they put us in touch with experts who had set up similar schemes before and advised us on the various options that we had, which were eventually written into our Articles of Association and to the rules of the Employee Benefit Trust. Although the founders of the company were well versed by this time in some of the options and the way forward, most of the employees were being faced with this as quite a new concept. And so it took a little while for them to get on board with the whole idea that they were part of the future ownership of the company, and also take on board the fact that the founders over time were going to disappear out of the company, and that they in some way were going to take the whole thing forward. A little daunting in some respects, but with time and enough communication and information, they've picked up on that idea and are now quite engaged with it. They're involved in the management team structure of the company, and involved in decision making, and involved in the whole communication across the company and the way we disseminate information. And so we've fostered that whole idea of greater communication alongside share ownership, because everyone really needs to understand what's involved in running a company, the way it's going, what the future prospects are, and they need to have a stake in that and to be able to give as well as receive information. On a day-to-day basis, they are allocated shares annually from the Employee Benefit Trust, and those shares have come from purchases from the founders. So the founders' shares have reduced in number, and those shares have gone into the Employee Benefit Trust. The way that has happened is that the company has made contributions, financial contributions, to the Employee Benefit Trust from its profits, and those contributions have enabled the purchase of shares from the founders. Every year there's a dealing day where both sellers, potential sellers, and potential purchasers are matched, so that if anybody wants to buy more shares or indeed sell some of the shares which they have, then they can express those thoughts on a dealing day, and the administrators of the company can match those together, and as a share buying and selling takes place. It would be good to ensure that there's very clear routes for communication between the people in charge who are championing employee ownership and the rest of the body of the staff. There's a lot of information to explain. There's a lot of ideas, a lot of new ideas for many people. Share ownership in their own company is quite a novel idea. People need to take that on board, what it means, what the implications are for them personally. I think we've learned a lot over the years, and if somebody was going for employee ownership and an employee buyout at this stage, I'd have to say that we've made some mistakes along the way, but that shouldn't stop you starting the whole process. You really have got to get on with it, start now. There will be times when everything is not particularly clear, but there's chances later to change things. It's not all set in stone, and you can develop your employee ownership as the years go on. In our case, we did this over many years. We did it on a long-term basis, such that there was quite a gradual transition between the founders leaving and a new team taking over. The main benefits of this whole idea of share ownership are that people are very, very engaged with the way the company is running and the future of the company. They now have ownership, they now have a say, they now have a stake in what's going on. They have a financial stake in that they have share value, they have dividends paid to them, but they have an emotional stake as well.